let's say I'm an engineer at a company, I want to be a product manager. Can I, even if I can't switch into product management at my existing company, can I do product management type things at my existing company, like partner with a PM,
Hmm.
maybe run a project or two, and have some of that experience under my belt as part of my full-time professional experience, which I can then speak to the hiring manager. That's what I would recommend it.
The goal of Career is a Journey series is to showcase two ideas. One, the range of roles available in the job market is very, very large. Two, Career is a journey with twists and turns.
Hi. Today we are talking to Ayan, who is a product manager. We talk about his career journey, skills required to be a successful product manager, and finally about a missing semicolon that costed his company $400,000. Hope you enjoy the conversation as much as I did. Okay, Ayan, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's jump right in. So the question that I would like to start off our discussion is by asking, how would you explain your current role to a high schooler?
Yeah, so simplifying something and boiling it down to the basics is definitely a challenging task. So with a high schooler, I would let me think about this. I would tell them that I work with a team of people who are all working together to build products to help the company stay in business and grow and solve an actual problem that exists in the market. So the job of a product person or a product leader is to provide the vision, strategy, layout, how they're going to get a specific product built to solve a specific problem that companies are experiencing, that companies need, or even individual, like for consumer products, like what is a consumer need? What is the problem that they're having? And then the job of the product leader is to create the vision, create the strategy, and also execute on solving that problem by bringing together various teams of people to solve it. So that's in essence what I would explain. Now, I don't know if that would make any sense to a high school person. I think we'd have to test this out and see if it does. Maybe there's a simpler way to answer that question.
Okay, like perfect jumping board. So let's like pull on a couple of threads there. So you mentioned teams. So what are those teams that a product manager works closely with?
Yeah, a few different ones. So starting off with, if it's like a software product or even a hardware product, the product manager needs to sit down with engineering to help them understand what it is that they're going to build. Not the how, but the what, and clearly define requirements, the customer need, the customer pain point, and work with make sure engineering understands and then build the product. So building is one part of it. The second part of it, once it's built, is working with the marketing and the sales team to figure out how to sell the product and how to help customers understand the value proposition and how it will benefit the customer in solving their problem. So connecting the dots for the customer. That's the second piece of it. So it's kind of sequential. You build a product, then you launch it. And then the third piece of it is figuring out the scalable model, the operational pieces. What are the different things that need to be in place, whether it's packaging, it's pricing, fulfillment of the product, provisioning the product, and then also thinking about the product lifecycle, like how long is it going to last in the market? Do you want to deprecate it at some point? Do you want to create new versions? So creating a mature operational process around the product development and product lifecycle.
Okay, yeah, fantastic. I guess taking a tangent here. Can you tell us a little bit about what your company does?
Yeah, so we are in the business of helping companies get more value out of their data. So any company in the world today, especially, they have lots and lots of data. They have problems trying to get a single source of truth. So they have fragmented siloed data all across the organization. If they have a customer, say Walmart, in their database, they might have multiple copies of the same Walmart in their Salesforce system, in their marketing systems, in their servers somewhere. We go in, we provide the software to deduplicate that record, cleanse it, standardize it, and provide customers a single source of truth, trusted data that they can rely on to make business decisions and drive actual business outcomes.
Okay, thanks for that. One of the things that surprised me when I got into the professional corporate world is the vast expanse of type of companies that are out there. So like what your company does, an explanation of that definitely helps. Okay, so again, looking at the product manager role. So the question that I want to ask, I think, is what skills does a good product manager have? But I want to try to complicate it a little bit here. So you have a LinkedIn post with the title "Hidden Realities of Product Management," where you mentioned multiple challenges that a product manager has to overcome to successfully deliver a product that solves a customer problem.
Yeah.
You had mentioned ambiguity as one, having to influence within undefined boundaries was another one. So I think it gives us an idea of what are the kind of skills that a product manager needs. So we will start there, and then I have a follow up on how someone can test it out. So I may feel I am comfortable with ambiguity up until I have to deal with ambiguity. So I think two-pronged question. We will start with a little detail on the skills required for a PM, and then take it from there.
Yeah. I think, you know, I can boil it down to three things that a product manager really needs to be successful. Number one is dealing with uncertainty, ambiguity. Nothing is really defined. Product manager's job is to figure out what those problems are, what are we trying to solve for, what does the solution look like, what do we build to solve these problems. So there's a lot of questions and nobody really has the answer. So the product manager has to figure these things out for themselves. So uncertainty, ambiguity, dealing with it and knowing how to deal with it is number one. Number two is a product manager has to be a leader of all kinds of people. So nobody reports to the product manager. They have to lead people that are not reporting to them. So how do you indirectly influence and lead people to all drive towards the same vision and get things accomplished, get things done? That's number two. And number three is they really have to be good in communicating, evangelizing a vision. Part of leadership and part of influencing and leading people is to articulate that vision, communicating to everybody, helping them understand the why, the what, where we're going, and doing that repeatedly on a continual basis. Not enough to do it just once. You have to do it over and over and over. So I think those three things are definitely will help a product manager succeed in that role.
Okay, so that's great. So like, how can someone test out whether they are a product manager fit? So I guess where I'm going with this question is, let's say if I want to test out if I love programming, I can do a side project over the weekend, pick up a language, pick up a project, and get some programming done, see how much I struggle or how much I enjoy. And that could give me an indication of, oh, hey, do I like programming? Do I want to be a software developer? Is there a product manager equivalent of that?
Good question. In a job setting, I don't know if there's anything in a company that could work other than trying to get into product management. The one thing I would recommend is maybe some sort of small side project outside of work where, this person can team up with, maybe if they're not technical, they can team up with an engineer and try to build something. It doesn't have to be a business. It can be a small project, like identify some kind of pain in the industry, whatever they're familiar with, and not even build a whole full-fledged product, but build like a prototype of some sort, like a mock-up with InVision or some wireframing tool like Figma. Build something, find a couple of early adopters, users, like a potential somebody that might pay down the road. Build something and see if they're able to identify a pain point and solve that pain point using that prototype and get some customer feedback and reaction. If that person enjoys doing that whole process end to end, or most of it anyway, I think they would enjoy the role of being a product manager. If they don't, then it might not work out real well, because the thing that a product manager has to do is rely on other people to get the job done. A PM isn't necessarily doing any of the building or the selling or the marketing. They're writing the initial requirements document and the definition, but that's pretty much it. Everything else is everybody else is doing. The PM has to provide leadership and oversight and guidance into the whole process, but individual contribution wise, there's not a huge amount going into the product. So that's something that they have to be okay with, but working on some kind of a side project like this, I think, could give them insight.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good takeaway, that hey, a side project is a good tool to test out whether you have that PM skills or how you feel about that. Okay, fantastic. Thanks for that. And now I guess taking a closer look at how your journey has been. So like this, the name of the series is Career Research Journey. How was your career journey? Specifically, I guess if there were like twists and turns, please tell us that.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. Definitely a lot of twists and turns. So I graduated undergrad with an electrical engineering degree. I was an engineer for a few years, and then rose to the ranks, became an engineering manager on process efficiency, quality, manufacturing. But I realized along the way that I could do the job, but I wasn't really enjoying it a whole lot, because it's a kind of a pigeonholing industry, semiconductors. Once you start going down that path, it's difficult to navigate towards something else. I wanted more flexibility. I wanted to be more on the business side. So that actually motivated me to get an MBA, because I really wanted to switch tracks. I didn't know that product was something that I wanted to switch into. I think I kind of fell into it just through business school and talking to other people. It felt like something that I wanted to do and pursue as a career path. But getting that first PM job after engineering and semiconductors wasn't easy. Even with the MBA, it took me about a year. And I tried a lot of different things, applying for jobs, networking, talking to companies, and it wasn't easy. I had to do a lot of different things. And the obstacle that I ran into was most people that were hiring for PMs needed some kind of prior experience, and I didn't have any PM experience. And the MBA, it was a little helpful, but not much, because ultimately the experience is what everybody's looking for, not so much degrees. But the MBA did help with networking, open up some doors. And I happened to find a job with somebody that I was associated with, part of my network. I do some volunteering, nonprofit work on the side, and I had known this person through that. So lesson number one is definitely have a network, know a lot of people, talk to a lot of people, because job openings, at least for me, it's been through other people. Like I don't think I've gotten any job through a random application. It's always been through reaching out to people and creating those relationships. So that at least got me out of engineering into PM, but I had to make another hop, because the product management job was in semiconductors, which was okay, but I wanted to get into software, like chip PMing for chips and hardware product management is a very different beast than software product management. Hardware has very long design cycles. You put in requirements 3 years in advance. You don't even know what that's going to look like for 3 years. So, you have to have a different mindset. It's much more kind of a waterfall methodology, not agile, because you have to, it takes a long time to manufacture chips. So switching into software was again tricky because people were looking at my background. They were seeing a bunch of semiconductor, all chips. Why would they trust me in the software space? So here again, I also got lucky with my network, reached out to a bunch of people. Again, took a few months to transition into software. And that got me into Dun & Bradstreet, where I did software product management with APIs. And then, obviously we met at D&B. But D&B, it was a good experience, learned a lot, but it still wasn't like the true sort of modern product management that I wanted to get myself into, true SaaS. So the SaaS experience, like true cloud, going from on-prem to SaaS, which I wanted to see what that was like. That experience I got at SailPoint in cybersecurity, again, through networking. I landed that. And it was a little bit of a pivot because what I did at SailPoint was a lot broader and bigger than I had done before. Building like a platform from scratch, like a 0 to 1 effort, building a pretty large team to go do that. And then Reltio, where I am now, data was again through a network that I found this job. The reason that Reltio appealed to me is because my experience has been all large company, and I really wanted to get that startup experience, see what it's been like. And I've been able to learn a huge amount, grew professionally. And so I've been there since. It's been pretty interesting, exciting. So, kind of a meandering path, not completely sort of well-defined. I didn't really know if everything was going to work out. So there were definitely a lot of moments of uncertainty, kind of questioning, how is it actually going to work out? But, through persistence, through a lot of luck, through meeting people, networking, it ended up happening.
Okay, yeah. And like this theme of that meandering path is like more common than I think like each of us individually think about, because when I think about my career, I have like pretty much like the exact same thought. I kind of like landed or lucked into the role that I'm in, where my skills and the requirements of the job aligns. I have a couple of follow-up questions, but I just want to elaborate on the switches that you made. So once you realized you wanted to move into the product management role or make a switch, you talked about network as one of the major component on why you were able to successfully do that. Is there any other item that you would focus on when someone is trying to make that switch? What else could someone do to do a successful switch?
Yeah, I mean, networking is one for sure. I think you really want to try to think about your experience and be able to tell the story, because everybody that's hiring is going to want to see how can you add value to that employer, to that hiring manager, to that company, and how does your experience help them solve that problem? So you have to be able to connect the dots, tie it all together, especially if you're trying to do something different that you haven't done before. Like in my case, product management, obviously, I didn't have experience. I had engineering experience and management, but how do I tie that story into PM? And also sometimes you might need to kind of take a step back, like a couple steps lower, maybe. Like in my case, even though I was kind of going on that engineering track and rising through that ladder, I had to sort of start over again in PM. So I almost have 2 career tracks. So you have to be willing to start over in certain cases, start at the bottom and try again. But if you really want to do something, I would recommend that, because otherwise it can be very pigeonholing in the sense that because everybody is looking for prior experience, very few people want to take a chance on somebody that hasn't done that before. So you have to kind of start at the bottom of the barrel, entry level.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So rely on your network, write your own story on how your previous experience helps you excel and add value to this new company in this new role. And then, of course, you may have to like rethink where you start off in that career ladder per se. So one other question that I want to ask there is, so you were an engineering manager, then you moved to a product manager. Are there any similarities, or are they like very different roles?
They're very different, but the similarity is still people, right? Like I managed people back then, I manage people now. So management techniques, they carry through, doesn't matter what field. Leadership was back then, leadership exists today. The pieces also that are similar is, as a PM, it's good to understand the technical side of things as much as you can. You don't have to do the development or the coding or build stuff yourself, but to be able to get engineers to trust you to work with them, the deeper you can get into that stuff, the better, go peek under the covers, try to understand how things are built. And in engineering, back when I was an engineer, obviously I was writing code, I was doing stuff myself, creating things. So that part of your brain, if it stays active, it's a good thing, because then you can understand and empathize with engineering. And if they run into problems, if they run into issues or something, customer runs into a problem, then you can more easily understand and empathize with the problem and be able to solve it, because you really do have to partner with engineering at all times to be able to be effective. So those aspects, I think, translate over.
Okay, fantastic. I also found it interesting that being a product manager in company X in an industry has a very different flavor from being a product manager at a different company. And I have noticed the same. You are a data analyst in a particular industry, say supply chain analyst is very different from, say, product analyst or the generic data analyst. So I think that's also very interesting, of the different flavors of the same role. You also mentioned the age-old conundrum of, I can't get a job that I want, even though I may have the necessary skill, because I don't have experience. And I can't get experience because I can't get that job. We previously talked about how like doing side projects is one way to test out your aptitude and interest. Would you consider these side projects as an opportunity to get that experience as well?
I used to think that having a side project on the resume would have helped me in the transition, but it turns out it didn't. And that's just my personal experience. It might be different for other people. I think doing side projects is helpful just for your own benefit and learning. But in terms of getting hired, hiring managers, employers, companies really look at your professional full-time experience. They really hone in on that. So I would suggest, my recommendation would be, instead of doing a side project for that purpose, right? If you're trying to build up your experience and trying to get that other job within your same company, can you switch roles in the same company and do something like that new job is requiring so you can get that experience? So, let's say I'm an engineer at a company, I want to be a product manager. Can I, even if I can't switch into product management at my existing company, can I do product management type things at my existing company, like partner with a PM, maybe run a project or two and have some of that experience under my belt as part of my full-time professional experience, which I can then speak to the hiring manager? That's what I would recommend it. And it might require the engineer to do their full-time engineering job and maybe some extra work at that company to work on like a side project at that company that can ultimately add value to that company.
Okay, yeah, fantastic point. Thank you, Ayan. Okay, so this is my last question, and I guess this is my catch-all question. So when we think about our career as a journey, a big story, do you have a interesting story in your career that you still remember and you can like share with us?
Yeah, there was one thing that happened to me at my first job many years ago that kind of changed and defined my rest of my career path and even myself. So I was an engineer working on programs to test chips that were coming out on wafers. I accidentally added in a semicolon at the end of an if statement, which basically meant that the if statement was null. And as a result of that programming mistake, like nothing caught it, no tests or checks caught it. It killed thousands and thousands of chips over like a 48-hour time period. And I didn't find out about it until all the wafers were being packaged in the factory 48 hours later. And so I got a call about all these wafers that were failing. Ended up being like $400,000 of time or money that was lost because of that one mistake that I made. And that was like the most stressful time of my life. I thought I was going to get fired for sure. I don't know why I didn't. Luckily, held on to my job. But yeah, that was extremely stressful. I learned a lot. It kind of made me pay a lot of attention to quality and detail, which I still do today, just to make sure that I don't repeat those same mistakes. So double checking, triple checking, like those, it's a good skill to have no matter what. But that was like a defining moment for me that completely changed everything.
Okay, wow, like wow, wonderful story. Not fun when it happened, I'm sure, but yeah, wonderful story when you look back in hindsight. So I said that was the last question, but I guess I cheated. Do you have like a career mantra or a career advice that you keep to yourself that you share with the people that you mentor?
Yeah, one thing, I wish I did this early on in my career. Things probably would have turned out differently. I think actively seeking out feedback, being very self-aware of what your flaws and weaknesses are, and what your strengths are, is super important, because if you're going to try to advance in a career and grow professionally, you just have to know what are the things you need to work on. Like, what are your weak spots, your areas of blind, like what are you blind to that you need to fix. I don't know if you can necessarily be a superstar in the areas that you're weak at. You can turn them into not liabilities anymore. So try to adjust for them. But actively seeking feedback from your peers, from your managers, from people you work with, I think is super important, because then you understand where are you good, where are you not so good, and try to mold yourself into the person that can succeed and do well and rise up in an organization. Because I think about it this way, like if you can figure out what your superpower is, where you're really good at, you double down on that and become like so well known that nobody can touch you for that superpower. And then for your weaknesses, just make sure that it doesn't get in the way of your advancement. So keep working at it, keep making it not as big of a weakness. That, and combined with doubling down on your superpower, I think will work wonders for anyone in their career.
Okay, yeah, I love it. Yeah. Okay then, yeah. Thank you, Ayan. Thank you for a very interesting conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the chat. It's great.
Like, share, and subscribe.